Kevin Harvick and Kyle Petty speak out on the Bubba Wallace incident. Let's take a look at what they had to say coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing good today. Before I jump into those two quotes, we have a guy that was doing it for Dale, and he won himself a bunch of money. Let's take a look at this real quick. WCNC Charlotte reporting, North Carolina man wins $235,000 lottery jackpot after buying 3 tickets for Dale Earnhardt, at Dale Earnhardt Jr. Luther Dowdy, he bought 3 basically lottery tickets because he said he was doing it for Dale, and it paid off for him. He got that cool $235K. So that is definitely awesome. I mean, he got paid doing it for Dale. So I wanted to start it off with positivity because let's be honest, the NASCAR news cycle this month has been negative. Speaking of which, let's get to those comments. First, by Kyle Petty. Kyle Petty said he thought that Bubba Wallace should be suspended for the rest of the season, not only because of the altercation on the racetrack where he took out Kyle Larson on purpose and spun him into the wall at max speed, which could have injured him, especially in this next-gen car that doesn't have a good safety record, where he's driving for a driver that's career has been shortened because of this car, and also for walking across a hot track, and then the push, and then the interview. So Kyle Petty, in his opinion, said Bubba Wallace should be suspended for the rest of the season. There are a lot of fans that agree with Kyle Petty. I'm saying because of how NASCAR has officiated things in the past, okay, walking across the hot track would have been a fine. We saw Trevor Bayne say that was a $23,000 fine for him, so he should have been fined for that. Being crappy with the reporter there, that should have been an anger management situation. Also pushing Kyle Larson, that probably would have got you the anger management deal, although NASCAR hasn't penalized any of the on-track altercations as far as physical confrontations this season. So I don't know if you can really do anything about that if you're in NASCAR shoes, but definitely some anger management would have been in place, because we saw when Kurt Busch cussed out Jerry Punch, he had to go through the anger management class, which was part of the rise of Kurt Busch. He sort of started to change the way he approached the sport after that as well. So I don't think you can suspend him for the rest of the season, but if you take a look at the Matt Kenseth situation where he wrecked Joey Logano, he did get 2 races, so you can possibly argue for 2 races instead of 1 race. But if you look at past precedents or past history, you basically have to say that maybe maximum a 2-race suspension and maybe a fine, and definitely should have got anger management, because any other driver in this situation would have got some type of anger management or sensitivity training, whatever NASCAR is calling it now. So you can argue some other things should have been thrown on, but I don't really agree with Kyle. It should have been the rest of the season. But there's definitely a lot of people that think it should have been the rest of the season. Let me know down in the comments below what you think. Coincidentally, Dale Earnhardt Jr. said he thought it shouldn't have been for the rest of the season, and he didn't even want him to get a race suspension, ironically enough. Dale Jr. said he thought a points fine, a team points fine, and a driver's points fine, and then a financial fine would have been the way he went about it. So I thought that was weird. Personally, I think that's too light. I don't see where hurting the team would really affect how Bubba Wallace drives. So I didn't agree with that one either. But one that I did agree with was Kevin Harvick. Let's take a look at some of what Kevin Harvick had to say. Kevin Harvick said, intentionally hooking people in the right rear should never be acceptable. Protect us from ourselves. I hope this is the beginning of the end of it happening. He then went on to say, I've been guilty of several of these instances you see happening, but I also had an iron fist of Mike Helton waiting for me after I'd acted like a fool. I believe an iron fist is needed going forward, and that will trickle down. No hacks, race right. You see, I borrowed that tweet, at least the retweet part of it, from Elite Precision 29. He has got a great NASCAR channel, so go check him out. He is really close to 1,000, so if you check him out and like his channel, feel free to subscribe to it. Trying to get him over 1,000 because he does a great job. And, well, check him out. But what Kevin Harvick said here definitely does make sense. Protect us from ourselves. That's 100% accurate. Protect us from ourselves, because we've seen just about every single race car driver, like Kyle Larson himself said, I've been guilty of doing it. I've done it myself. So we have seen just about every race car driver, with the exception of maybe Martin Truex, intentionally wreck somebody at some point in their career. At least most of our favorites have. So there's not really a whole lot of high ground to stand on that. But I also think that going forward, if somebody is intentionally wrecked and you know that a 1-race suspension is coming, That will clean up the sport quite a bit, and it will also clean up the end of these races where you see a bunch of these wreck fests. The other part of that I wanted to talk about was Kevin Harvick said, when we did it back in the day, we had a strong hand that we knew was waiting for us. And I think that was a subtle shot at management. He was basically saying, hey, back in the day, when we did something wrong, we were actually scared about doing something wrong, but the management or the direction of NASCAR right now is so weak that nobody is scared of anything because we know you guys aren't going to do anything. And I think that is a good personal challenge that Kevin Harvick has issued to NASCAR because they do need to step it up, especially in safety situations. I've been very vocal that for whatever you want to say about Brian France, he was on top of safety, at least in his era, and who would have thought that those would be the good old days, especially for safety, because this era of NASCAR does not seem to be as proactive in safety, in my opinion. But so I thought Kevin Harvick's comments were spot on there. They do need to be protected from themselves, and I do like the race suspensions for intentional wrecks going forward, and I hope NASCAR sticks with it and stays with it. But let me know down in the comments what you think about any of this that you saw here today. I'll get to as many comments as I can. If you made it this far, feel free to subscribe. All your subscriptions help the channel, and I really appreciate them a lot. And if you're already subscribed, I appreciate you as well. You know that. And other than that, thanks for your time. Peace.